Big Frank's sausage.
I went to Big Frank's.
I'm well,
once.
thank you. How are you?
That was to get beer.
Well, we're glad you're here. Well, we're very glad you're here.
You can
By the
actually
way,
gotta go.
next Tuesday, I don't know how to reach you, but I'll send you something. There's gonna be our first meeting of the year.
I haven't been to they moved across the street
That'll
from
be
the
on
original.
Tuesday at 5 o'clock here. We're gonna meet with Indiana Water.
Oh, I remember that.
Right, I would
You
give you,
don't even have to worry
Yeah,
about
that's what
contacting me.
we'll put
5
something in your
p.m.
box.
on Tuesday.
Yes,
Yeah.
but we'll put something in your box.
Hello. Okay, thank
My
you.
wife is real picky. She can't find Polish sausage in Indianapolis, so every time I come up here, I have to buy it.
What kind are you buying, by the way? Is it Marushek? Or is it like a house brand for them?
I don't know.
Oh, Marushek is very
Fresh
good.
and smoked, that's all I know. There's 8 pounds in my car.
By the way, Robert, did you see in the paper that, is it ZB or MR Falcons is closing for good?
No.
Go. All right. I'm gonna call the Redevelopment Commission workshop to order for Tuesday, April 9th at 5:09 PM. Ms. Chilcott, will you take the roll in absence of our secretary?
Sure. Chandler Felton. Hayes Edwards.
Here.
Uzelak.
Here.
Hardaway. And Pettit.
Here. We have 3 members, and we are recording, but it is a workshop, but Mr. Griffin indicated that Counselor Hardaway will not be attending tonight, and she will not be at the council meeting, so we really don't have anything on the consent agenda. Under old business, ladies, I had invited Bob Swenson, Tom Pittman to come up and talk about 3 large projects that are redevelopment commission related. Back in the previous administration, Margie, you might remember this, we had the 3-acre parcel remnant that was at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center.
Yes, I remember.
The property is a 2-lot subdivision. When Joe bought the property for the town with Bruce Spires, and we subdivided it into 2 lots, one being a 3-acre lot. It went back and forth between ownership, and Tom Pittman had an idea. We were gonna have Epic United Volleyball there. Remember,
Sure,
they were gonna build a building and
I
lease to the
remember.
Boys and Girls Club. Well,
Okay.
subsequently, they could not come through with their financing. They sold it back to the RDC, or to the town, and then we were approached by the Boys and Girls Club, and Joe initiated that transaction. So Boys and Girls Club owns the 3 acres out there at the Dean and Barbara White Community Center. That being said, I've asked Tom and Michael to come up with a strategy that, and bring it back to the 7 of us or the 5 of us, that we are still committed to the previous commitment made by the town, which is a $2 million investment in the Boys and Girls Club through the allocation areas for a 10-year period, $200,000 a year for 10 years, and we take that right off the top. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Bob and Tom and Michael to start talking about the financing of the Boys and Girls Club.
I can talk a little bit about the recommended structure.
Okay.
When the commission was undertaking this in the past, there was a desire that it not be in the form of a bond issue, which made sense at the time. I've inquired as to whether a bond issue in name would be acceptable, and was told there might be some interest in that. So here's the way it would be structured. The town, in conjunction with the Redevelopment Commission and the Economic Development Commission, would, in name, issue a bond to the Boys and Girls Club. But they wouldn't have to pay any money for that bond. They would agree to do certain things in order to be eligible to receive the annual payments on the bond. And so we would want to have an agreement up front that spells out what the expectations are of the town from the Boys and Girls Club. Do we want them to agree to operate a certain period of time? It'll be something we can look at each year and can say, okay, to get your principal distribution at the end of each year in the amount of $200,000, you need to show us that X, Y, and Z are true, continued operation, or whatever you want to decide. But the idea is that the Redevelopment Commission would pledge TIF to the town, which the town would then use to make economic development bond payments to the Boys and Girls Club in specified amounts on specified dates. And so it ends up being a legal vehicle for a legally binding approach to providing annual stipends to the Boys and Girls Club. It's absolutely, unquestionable in terms of the legality of the structure. And the key is going to be to figure out what we need them to do to continue to have the right to receive the money.
Well, and let's back up a second, Tom, for Shauna's benefit and refresh Margie's memory. This is gonna go toward capital.
Right.
They're estimating they want to, quote-unquote, kind of copy the East Chicago Club, which would have classrooms and one basketball court and offices. And so they are in the price range of $7 to $8 million.
Ooh.
We would be in there, they would have to do a capital campaign. There are other avenues that they're exploring to raise those funds. And again, that would get them, the Boys and Girls Club after-school program would then get out of the Dean and Barbara White in those 4 rooms they're using now. That would get them into the new facility and allow residents or other groups after senior programs or whatever happens to develop. I do see our good friends in the audience, Chris Murphy and John Kennedy. One thing I stress to them guys, and Joe can confirm this, is that when we got the gift from the White family and we developed the Dean and Barbara White Community Center, they wanted a campus. And so we have the football field, the Weiss Field in back, we have the community center that Structure Point designed. And I told Boys and Girls Club earlier, you should strongly consider using Structure Point and Core to have the continuity and the architectural look of their building with ours, with the blue and the gray and the clad and everything that John and Chris and Dan McCloskey designed. So that's one reason John and Chris are here to kind of listen in on to what we've got going. So I don't know, Michael, do you have any comments or questions for Tom?
Mr. President, members of the commission, I don't have any questions. I just want to add that these will be sold. You sometimes, if you're acquainted with savings bonds, if you don't get I bonds, but you get double E bonds or E bonds, you buy them at 50% of par, which means 50% of face value. These are going to be 0% of par.
Yes.
And 0% interest, which makes them legal still. The only thing that we discussed today that would be outside of what was discussed in this presentation we want to verify that we have the cash flow that will support the amount of payments that we're pledging to come out of there. So the ideal will be 10 years at 200,000 each year. We fully are going to commit to the total of 2 million, but we may have to stretch that out a little bit if we find that cash flow is required. But we'll know that better after Mr. Swintz at London Witty does an evaluation and determines what existing pledges that we've made for that money. Our expectation is there shouldn't be a problem with this, but we're going to verify that.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that it could be beyond 10 years, but our expectation is that 10 years will work.
And I don't hold me to a number because the press isn't here, but when we had our initial workshop this year for the new members, Bob, I think our annual TIF draw in all of the allocation areas is close to 9 million? Is that high?
Let me say it this way. After payment of current debt issues that are outstanding, we run in excess of anywhere from $4 to $6 million a year during this time period.
Okay.
So if we take that $4 to $6 million a year, subtract off this 200,000 and what we're going to talk about going forward, we still will have excess dollars.
And
To meet all those
again, for
commitments.
the benefit of Shauna being new to the commission, we also have a grant agreement, Shauna, with Merrillville School Corporation for the $400,000 a year. I apologize, I'm not sure if that's a 5-year or 10-year.
It is 5.
It's 5 years, and they had 3 projects that they outlined, which was the CTE program, the truancy court, and the entrance exit at Filer onto Harrison. If you remember that, Margie, we
Yes.
talked about that.
Yes, I
So
do.
we would have these 2 commitments coming off the top of those TIF draws that Michael and Eric will pick up January and June or whatever, twice a year.
Yes, the TIF draws come with the tax draws, so they're
Yeah.
roughly around June and they're roughly around December
Yeah.
31st.
Oh,
I wanted to ask a question. Michael, you answered what I was thinking. The E-bonds, they don't have to pay any interest on them. There's a no interest. But are they bringing in any interest to make money, the E-bonds or the other bonds?
Oh, no, remember, my sense is that this is not for that. How do I say this artfully? Indiana makes us not be linear whenever we want to give directly to a particular activity or event or function that we know is aligned with the legal purposes of redevelopment or economic development. We believe that there's an economic development and redevelopment, actually a community development even, purpose for this particular $2 million contribution to the capital. But I hope I'm saying this artfully. Indiana doesn't allow you to directly give as Illinois does. So one of the ways that we do this is, I call them private placement bonds. You've called them developer-backed. Neither of those, I think private placement in this case is more correct. It's where we actually have them buy a bond. There'll be paper that gives them a face amount, but they won't have to come up with the money up front.
Okay.
That's the goal. And no interest will be charged. And then, as described by Mr. Pittman, our amortization agreement with them will include certain benchmarks or metrics. Let's say one of them is we want them annually to demonstrate that they have been, they've participated in some synergies with our programming at the Parks and Recreation Department, but we were never in conflict. We don't want them to run basketball tournaments when we're running a basketball program. We don't want them to do volleyball when we're doing volleyball. But we'll happily let them do after school, and if there's things that we can do for them that supports that, we want to do that. So it'll be things like that. Also, percentage of construction. So the idea is that we want to support this investment in the community, which we think enhances the quality of place for us, meets a need, so it meets all those economic development objectives, but they're not going to have to, they're a not-for-profit anyway, so they're not going to contribute increment of any kind. So this is a good way to do this, I believe.
So there's no profit on the bond?
No.
Okay, that was my question. Good.
Well, yes, they're not going to earn anything on it either.
Okay.
That's the point you're
But they
asking.
do get the bond without paying anything for it?
That is correct.
Right, okay, good.
How'd I do?
That answers my questions,
that
thank
answers
you.
your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I think
Shauna,
it's,
do you have anything?
Nope, just taking notes and
Just taking notes?
listening very well.
All right, trying to
Yes, okay.
One reason I'm calling these workshops is frequently to
Sure.
get you guys up to speed and,
Absolutely.
Right. No, I
refresh.
think it looks good right now.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Tom and Bob, do you have anything else for,
I'll just say, when we come back to the next meeting, I'll have, instead of my typical 68-page report, I've condensed it down to 2 pages that will show TIF being generated, obligations, and then that excess to show everybody that we have.
okay.
That's very good,
sufficient
thank you.
funds.
Let's, all right, then let's move into the next item on the agenda. And then we can talk about together what the process is gonna be for both of these, because obviously, these are the same kind of function, right, Tom?
Sure.
What happened, ladies, is we were asked, Angie and Michael and I, along with Councilman Bella, were asked on a couple of meetings, which I thought were very fruitful, very positive, with the Gary Diocese. And we have 2 representatives from the diocese in the audience. The Superintendent of Instruction, is that right, Colleen? Superintendent of Catholic Education. And Kathy, your title is? Chief Financial Officer, so she's the money lady. And as you ladies well know, it's been publicized via letter to the families, and we talked about it at the last council meeting, that it is the intent of the Gary Diocese to keep Andrean open at 5959 Broadway.
Yay.
They are going to be, thank you. Now, don't hold it against Councilwoman Uzelak, but she's a Bishop Knoll graduate.
Yeah, yeah, but my brothers and sisters went to Andrea, so.
So,
She's the superintendent of public instruction,
I cannot go
parochial
against
instruction, so she loves all of them.
so
That's right, that's right.
one of the things we discussed in that meeting was a two-way commitment by the diocese / Andrean to remain in Merrillville, stabilizing and fortifying that north end of Merrillville as we go through the Merrillville Momentum Project. And what would the town be willing to reciprocate to the Gary Diocese and Andrean? And I think Angie, as always, did an outstanding job of summarizing it. I think it's in your packet.
Yeah.
And you've got the letter from Mr. Knazer, some of the concerns that we discussed, and how we, as a town, need to handle them. And one of the critical elements that came out of that was the access point. And I'll let Angie kind of dive into her memo for the benefit of the members.
Yeah, I just did a recap of our meeting that occurred early in March. We talked about, again, Councilman Pettit mentioned the comprehensive plan, and the one of the concerns was that the north end maybe wasn't getting enough attention as the entire town, and possibly being overlooked. So we did go over those items as far as beautification, walkability, connectivity, and how that all related to the town plan, and especially a focus on that northern end where Andrean lies. So we wanted to talk about that so that everybody was familiar and comfortable with the future of Merrillville. Then we did, the diocese provided the issue listing with some concerns with safety. Chief Newsis did directly talk about ways to and suggestions as to what the school can do in terms of addressing some of those concerns. We gave suggestions on, and also something as simple as beautification can also address safety concerns, so that lighting and such, so it's not a scary place to be. So, and then the town also, Sheila Shine, Planning Director, also reached out to the neighboring apartment building owners to address particular concerns so that everybody's on the same page and everybody is more comfortable with the decision to keep Andrean. And then lastly, the school traffic and the access point. As you know, they come out on Broadway now, and we do have the officer there to help direct traffic. But it would be, if we're thinking outside of the box and going forward, it would be great for them to have another access point off of 61st. So with Steve King, and Matt Lake, the directors of stormwater, or excuse me, the director of the street department as well as stormwater, they're taking a look at different routes and such off of 61st that we can possibly make that access happen. And so with that, there's obviously going to be a cost involved. And so there was funding discussions, and that's kind of where we're at for, to tie into the next phase of what was talked about in regards to assisting with Andrean with those needs and the decision to help them stay.
Okay, thank you, Angie. And what I'd like to see, and I think Rick will hopefully be here tonight for the council meeting. I hope he's going to be here for the council meeting. We talked about, Kathy and Colleen is getting a letter back to the bishop and outlining these things. And for the benefit of the members, I guess in addition to Chief Newsis and the Merrillville Police increasing a presence out there for them, as Angie alluded to, the access point, and then also they, with their commitment to stay in Merrillville, are making, and I don't want to speak out of turn, ladies, so stop me and say, shut up, Sean, but they're talking about a $30 million renovation and investment
Good.
to the building in the town of Merrillville, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Did I get it?
We don't have a plan, like, we don't have the plan, we don't have the renovation ready, the phase, you know, so we don't know an exact dollar amount.
Right.
Again, that's a going number in the conversation. So regardless, it's a significant contribution, right? To both the academics and the land and trying to figure out how to make that happen. And so knowing that we're gonna need to partner with all of you to be able to make that best for all the students in the community.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. There was a rumor out there that Andrean was going to move like south of 30 or somewhere. Was that true, or was there going to be a move?
It's true that that was a rumor.
Okay. It's
Well, there was, I guess, there was a study by the previous bishop
There
that,
was research being done to look at that as an option, right? No, so we were looking at multiple options, and that was one of the options. And so we put together a committee this year to really decide on what's the best option, what's realistic when it comes to the finances, as well as what's best for the students in school. And then we've really decided that, right, 59, staying there is what's best, so, yes.
What is the enrollment total now?
We're right around 500 students. So again, we're looking over the next number of years to go up. I know there's the moments I wish Mr. Knizer was here. He would know the next number. But just under 500. And so we've been stable the last few years and moving up in the right direction. So really excited to continue that.
Colleen, I see my audio-visual man waving his arms back there. If one of you ladies could step up to the podium as we continue this discussion so that
Very good.
Craig can get everything
over
on
there.
tape.
Yes, please.
Yes, the special with the, yes. So what I would propose, ladies, that the RDC consider in talking with Michael and Angie and our financial and bond counsel and Joseph, our local counsel, is three things in the letter. The safety issues that we'll have to outline with Chief Newsis, but it would be a waiving of the fees for building permits when appropriate as they bring those in. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, and we've done this again for Merrillville High School, I think it's somewhat equitable and fair that we commit $100,000 a year for 10 years, which would be $1 million specifically, and it'll be written up with Tom and Joe and Michael, specifically for access. So it's not gonna go to the building, guys,
Right,
Colleen and
no,
Kathy.
right.
It will only be for the development, which may mean right-of-way acquisition and anything left over that would go toward the construction. And this is right along the same lines
Right.
of what we're doing with Filer, with Nick Brown and Merrillville School Corporation. So I think
That'd be great.
it's very easily justifiable, in order to do this. And that brings us back to the esteemed Mr. Pittman Esquire, to talk about the same financing, basically, right, Tom?
Correct, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the process, if you want me to comment on that, would be
Sure, yeah.
that the redevelopment commission would take action to pledge the TIF needed to make the contribution payments designated as principal payments. The authorization of the bonds, quote unquote, would involve an Economic Development Commission recommendation and then an ordinance of the town council. But again, probably the most important document in any of that is the agreement up front. Once that's done, this will be a steep downhill ride,
Okay.
so.
And one thing I mentioned, Colleen, and RDC members to Tom today is, I would envision, Colleen, that this is going to be a bond between the Diocese of Gary. It's not specifically
Correct.
to Andrean, right? The
Right,
bishop.
diocese and the bishop.
Is there a president of the pastoral council? What's the governing body, with the diocese?
I mean, it's through the bishop, right? So
The bishop would
The bishop
sign
is
the-
the ultimate person who's gonna be signing off on anything,
Okay.
and that is his school.
And I'm pretty sure his credit's probably pretty good, right?
I sure hope so.
Quadruple
not
A,
Kathy, yes.
quadruple A rating, Mr. Griffin?
Exactly.
Yes,
Yes, no,
I would think it's got heavenly backup.
yes.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, which is great.
Okay, so I guess the
Wonderful.
next step then, Bob and Tom, would be, and for the benefit of Kathy and Colleen, we typically meet on the fourth Tuesday of the month to
Okay.
do an official public hearing where the RDC pays bills, approves the claims, passes any resolutions or ordinances that Joe or Tom or Michael happen to prepare for us. So that would probably take place 2 weeks from tonight. Tom would be the first step, or you may need more time for the agreement, Joe, with, I'm guessing, I don't know.
I mean, if a letter has to be issued to the diocese, then off of the letter, we craft the resolution and agreements. I imagine it's gonna take more than 2 weeks.
Do those have to go to Rome?
I can hand deliver them to Rome if you'd like, we can,
That deals where it had to go to Rome.
No, right,
I'm going to Rome in 2025, but I don't think we want to wait that long.
yeah, exactly, right, exactly.
So I guess we kind of have to just play this by ear at the end of the month, Joe, and see.
That's fine.
Again, we can always call a special RDC meeting if we need to
Okay,
get things going.
Okay.
Obviously, I would want Keisha and Leona in the loop, which I will rely on our able-bodied staff, Mr. Griffith and Mrs. Chilcott, to update them. And they can watch Craig's video, to go through all this. Colleen or Kathy, do you have any questions, of the staff or our consultants?
I do have one.
If you want to come up, Kathy, just,
Come join me, and then I have one.
join
I
her
have
at
a
the
question too,
podium.
we might have the same. I mean, first, I want to thank you. The last conversation when we did meet really made a significant difference in feeling comfortable and putting to paper, yes, we're committed to this, we know Merrillville's committed to us. So that really was nice to get all the support, and it made a difference in that conversation. It made it easier for everyone to kind of buy in and say, yes, we're ready for this and ready for the next step. So thank you for all of you and taking that time for us. Go ahead, and then I have a question if you don't ask the same thing.
Yeah, the two questions that I have are, one, on the commitment for 100,000 for 10 years. Would it be fashioned similar to what you were talking about for the Boys and Girls Club? Where
Yes,
that-
exactly, in
it-
fact,
it-
Tom, wouldn't it?
it's a bond, just so I could explain it to Bishop, it's a bond that you guys would be more or less floating to us, and then we would get the proceeds each year of about 100,000 that would be designated to the access,
Right.
the road.
Think of it as buying at zero par. And then, but it's got a face value of 1 million.
Okay,
That'll be repaid to you in equal installments over 10 years,
okay.
with
Thank
no interest.
Yeah, because we generally don't deal in bonds, so, bond issues, so I'll explain that to him. Thank you for that. The other point that we did talk about in our March meeting and was of some interest to us and him was the possible mitigation of the wetland. Was there any further discussion on that? Because we have some wetland on the campus of Andrain. We're not sure, but
Right.
we think that that might be helpful to us as well.
Kathy, is that east of the football field, or is that on the north up by Salvatorian Fathers?
I think it was on I think the one discussed was up north.
Was-
Again, we don't have that physical plan, we haven't looked at it specifically, but that
Right.
was the one that was mentioned, if I remember
Okay.
right.
Because after that discussion, we started thinking about, well, maybe we would reposition the way the campus is laid out. But we
Okay.
did want to know if that was still an option for us.
Yeah, I think we would need to recap with Director Matt Lake
Yep.
in regards to that, but I know that it was certainly talked about, and it can be revisited.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Okay.
Just
Do
wanted to
you,
note it.
Colleen or Kathy, does the diocese or the bishop have a timeline as to when you're going to retain consulting services and surveying and engineering for the, I mean, I know we talked about it probably being in phases.
Assume the
So,
next 6
yeah,
months.
yeah, we're talking about, putting an RFP together for services.
Okay.
For an architect and builder, et cetera.
Okay, because the one guy that
Gonna
went to
come in.
Bishop, no, you don't have to worry about, but the other guy went to Notre Dame. So he's probably got another lead in there, right, Christopher?
Right, yeah, so we are hoping to, right, we do hope in the next couple months to put an RFP out and then start getting some proposal and looking at that.
Surveying and engineering and,
Yeah,
That being part of
right.
that process,
Okay,
yes,
all right.
exactly. Yep.
and we, with all due respect, we asked the same thing, the Boys and Girls Club. Joe and I and Angie were talking, Michael, were talking with them the other day, and, what is your schedule? What are you doing with building design and,
Yes.
that kind of thing, so.
Yes, right, in parallel, we're having the conversation about advancement and, fundraising and, all the capital needs and all of,
Okay.
everything we need for that, so we're working on the timeline,
Okay.
hopeful.
All right, ladies, do you, Sean or Margie, do you have any other questions on this one for the diocese or for Bob and Tom?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. We will again then follow you and Joe and Michael's lead as to what the RDC needs to do next on both of these. They're kind of different dollar amounts, but kind of running on the same track.
Counselor Pettit, the regular town council through its president is going to need to reconstitute the Economic Development Commission.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that we need to make sure that we have, two of the nominations weren't a problem. It's the county council nomination. Nobody recalled if that had been done. So we're going to reconstitute that. So we should have a conversation about getting that established, because that's critical to this plan.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda for a discussion, Deputy Chief Lilly is here, from the Merrillville Fire Department. Again, Bob and Tom and Michael and Angie, we've had this discussion. There is, I guess, need/demand, Jim, for a Southside Fire Station has come up. And, Chief Yerga and Jim and the Fire Territory Board, have looked at this and I guess pinpointed the Colorado Street corridor in the whatever's available land area of 9,300, somewhere south of Polycon Industries. And we wanted to talk to Bob and Tom and Michael and pick their brain as to what the best way to handle this project, along with the commitment that we've made on the new aerial fire truck, and how we handle those. So again, I will defer to the, as I affectionately called them today, the RDC Brain Trust. So, Thomas?
Well, I think that It's been suggested by Michael that it might be better to pay for this project out of property taxes rather than TIF. When property taxes are used to pay for a project, the debt limit is brought into play unless you do it in the form of a lease. So I think the recommendation is that we constitute or reconstitute a redevelopment authority. You guys have had that in the
We have it.
past. Have them act as the nominal financing agent. They technically issue bonds and then lease the project to the redevelopment commission in return for a commitment by the commission to levy taxes on the redevelopment district, which is the town, to make the payments over time. What am I missing? What did I leave out?
There'll be an agreement between the fire territory as well, because it'll be owned by the redevelopment authority during the period of the fire station and the fire truck. At the end of financing, then they'll be, for $1, another good and valuable consideration, turned over to you all without really giving us that. One of the things we discussed today, Deputy Chief Lilly, was that we need to get a firm number. The fire truck's easy. We need a firm number on the estimate, if you will, a more solid number on the estimate for the fire station.
That's something we're working on. We did have numbers before when we went through this plan, and we've been kind of told to kind of reevaluate some of that, to figure out where we're over, I think, 15.
Yeah, that
original
was,
design.
Ah, I see, okay.
the other consultant was, Jim, I think anywhere from 9 to 17 million, depending on how many bays you wanted.
Oh, goodness.
You know, the idea, Michael, was that this would be a south side public safety, that Steve could maybe park 1 or 2 plows down there. Costa would have 1 or 2 or 3 offices along with the fire department offices and the bays and your equipment down there. That sound right, Jim?
That's about right, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea was kind of making it a public safety building, but then the police department, street department, public works would have bays to keep stuff in. And the idea was eventually street department was talking about building a salt barn out there. So during the winter months, they would go there instead of driving all the way back into town to keep the roads taken care of out there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of-
So
it's a lot of square miles
we've
here.
now been reevaluating, trying to come back down to something that, trying to get some real numbers for you guys.
Well, the one question I want maybe Bob and Tom to elaborate on is the fact that at the last council meeting, we agreed to have the council president sign the agreement to order the truck. We're gonna get a discount on the aerial that Ed proposed, but it wouldn't be ready for 3 to 4 years, Jim?
So based on most of that, the financial people we talked to, the discount, if you took out a bond, wasn't gonna make sense. Because we won't be seeing this fire truck for another 4 years. As soon as the order gets put in, it's gonna take 4 years, I'd say 3.5 to 4 years before we actually see this truck here in town. So the idea of paying early on it to get a discount, the financial people we spoke to said that's not worthwhile. You're actually gonna lose, so.
Commissioners, you had to get the initial discount, you had to pay 100% up front, which is not lawful in Indiana. So they did refigure the discount for us at 50%, it was even less valuable, because that's the max we could put up. And we still hadn't figured out how we were gonna finance it at the time to come up with 50% of the value of the fire truck. So I think that the financial people with whom they spoke were correct about the value of that discount. It's not very valuable to us at all, in terms of time, value of money.
So it's gonna end up running us a total of what, Jim? 2.5?
Don't quote me on it, I thought it was like somewhere right around 2.7, which was finalized.
Yeah, just under that.
I'm just going, I think it was 2.6.
That's correct. It's
But it
just
was,
under
so-
2.7.
Yeah, just
And
under
the
2.7.
town has to commit to that full amount.
That is correct.
Okay, well, what I recommend, how I recommend that be handled, to deal with the technical requirement of having funds appropriated in order to make the contract fully valid, is as follows. At the time, the redevelopment authority, that's the lessor entity, issues its debt. I would propose that you work with a local bank to get a commitment for a loan that is a draw loan. That is, it's a firm commitment by the bank to allow you to draw up to the 2.7 or whatever. So you're not bearing interest until you make the draws. But you can say credibly that the funds are committed, that there's no doubt that you have access to the full price as a vehicle then for being able to make that claim conclusion while not paying interest.
And we'll never draw on it probably,
And
because
you'll
by the
never
time,
draw
right,
on
so we'll sell bonds to pay for it when it's ready.
Right, right.
I like that. That's
So
pretty
what-
elegant. Thank you very much, Mr. Pitt.
Well, that's what I recommend. It's not, it's not what do you call it when the basketball doesn't touch the rim?
Oh,
Not a swish.
Slam dunk.
It's not a swish. It's more of a hit the rim. So,
pretty good though.
Rolling around.
yeah, I wouldn't say rolling around. I'd say just tapping.
Works for
Now, Jim, for the benefit of the other two
Makes sense.
commission members, I'm not sure if they're aware, I know Keisha and Rhonda are appointments to the Fire Territory Board. And you are also, the department through the Fire Territory Board, you're also doing its own bond issue for the upgrades to 57th Avenue, correct?
That is correct.
And some equipment. And what was the third item?
The wellness/maintenance building that we're gonna be building that is behind the fire station off 18 West 73rd Avenue.
That's the thing.
Okay, that was the third, the building, right? And that's gonna eat up about all your capacity to bond, right?
Yep,
Which is why you're coming to the town, so to speak, for the aerial truck,
yes.
which is how many years old?
The one we currently have right now, I'll be honest with you, we have no aerial trucks in town, because right now they're all broke. Working on trying to
Broke?
fix, yep, they're all out of service.
Okay.
We are working our best to get one of them back on the road, and I've been working with the repair guy, but
Okay,
the one it was 92 was the big aerial truck that was last purchased, the 100-foot, 102-foot aerial. We do have two 75-foot aerial trucks in town, but right now we are working on them.
okay. Now, I know, and one of the reasons I did invite John and Chris is I know that Ed has reached out again to Structure Point and Core. Again, they've been a very good partner for the town with what they've done. So I don't know, Jim, if there have been further discussions on the design of this building, because obviously Bob and Tom and Michael are gonna need, an estimate on the building. As you know, I'm doing everything in my power as the councilman out there to get the land donated. Ed and I have been talking about 6 acres on either side of Colorado, and I've gone to the owner of Polycon Industries, who has a balance of about 60 acres, Margie to the south,
Yeah.
and asking him to donate 6 acres. In my simple investment mind, that is a tax write-off for that gentleman, but that's how, he's hemming and hawing and going back and forth, and we haven't really solved the donation yet.
What's his name?
His name's Burl Blitzstein.
Okay.
And so we'd like it at the south end of Polycon, right by near the MCD lift station, if you're familiar with Colorado.
Yes.
So it begs the question for, I guess, John and Chris, and also an indication to Bob and Tom and the commission of, do we want to set a budget? Is that realistic to set a budget and say, and don't hold me to this, Kennedy? If we say, we're gonna do $10 million and 2.7 million, so we're looking at $12.7 million of financing between the truck and the building, what happens if, God forbid, and these guys know how I am because they've worked with me on the community center, it comes in at $11 million and we only gave them 10 million for the building. That's my hesitation of putting a number and a ceiling on this thing, but I don't know how far along, Jim, you and Ed and the territory board are with this building.
With the design of it, we did meet with Structure Point, and we came up with a game plan with them and waiting on some stuff to come back from them now.
All right, are we getting a repeat customer discount? I have that coupon in my office. Okay, all right. Oh, okay.
If I could chime in, normally on a construction project like this, the secure approach, frankly, is to wait until you have your bids in,
That's correct.
so that you know what the construction cost is. That way you don't oversize your debt or undersize it.
Okay,
Bless you, Mr. Pittman, thank you.
thank you, yes. So Tom
Plus-
McCloskey, he's working Saturday and Sunday to get this done. Chris, okay? Will do. Yeah, it's a good idea, Tom. I didn't know, we know the cost for the aerial because they've gotten the bid. But obviously, we're gonna have to, Jim, we're gonna have to get I'll continue to work on the land. I almost called and invited them to come tonight, but I wasn't sure where this discussion would go. Joe and I can work on that off to the side. Joe's somewhat influential, right?
Commissioner Pettit, are you needing the property to locate the fire station?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Do I look like I've learned something just now?
Did you learn?
I was unaware that that was a standing issue.
Well, and the interesting thing to kind of piggyback off of that though, Michael, and we heard the presentation last week, Shauna, from the solar people.
Right.
They are also looking for an easement from Mr. Blitzstein to get to the back part where they've got the ability with leases in place. We heard they have leases in place in back of Polycon and Modern Forge with the property owners to put solar panels back there. They need a 40-foot easement, and so they're in talks and negotiations with him as well. So it's not just the 6 acres for the fire station. There's another project that the town can benefit from if he's willing to, cooperate, so.
Are there, to use the nomenclature of Mr. Schukert from last evening, are there urban services there?
Urban surfaces?
Yes, are there sewers and water?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Yes, there are. There's a MCD lift station at the 9300 block
All right.
that was put in specifically for Mr. Blitzstein and Polycon Industries back when I was in your
Oh,
esteemed
okay.
chair, back in 1999. My hair was a lot darker, similar to the chairs.
We
Right.
don't care.
You don't care, Margie?
No, it
Okay.
was darker. It might have been blonde for all I know.
That's when I was working for David.
Okay.
So,
Councilman Pettit?
yeah, they put the sewer in, the water is in,
Okay.
to both facilities, Modern Forge and Polycon Industries down there, so, again, this is a recommendation from Jim and from Ed, and the fire department. This is the best location to serve that area, lower insurance costs, improve the ISO rating of all those places out there, right, Jim?
That's what we're looking at, yes.
Yeah.
Has Matt Lake been out there to check it?
I don't know if he has or not.
Okay.
No.
I just because he should probably go out there too.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Yep. So I will, as the councilman, I will make that phone call back to Burl and say, we had a redevelopment commission workshop.
Good.
And the town needs an answer from you. And if this is going to be a long, drawn-out process, I don't know. I have somewhat of a personal and political, vested interest in this because I will be forthright with you ladies. We've given Polycon Industries 2 10-year tax abatements,
I know.
2. He has 300,000 square feet out there, and I have come to him as the ward councilman with hat in hand saying, Burl, will you donate 6 acres? His initial response is he wanted us to pay $110,000 an acre, $660,000 for the property, and I said, Burl, I am not paying for property. I will go to the gentleman across the street, or I will go wherever, and those that know me well, Margie, you know how I can be.
Good job.
And I told Burl that, and so it's, this is a public safety issue.
Right.
And I've got residents out there, and we've got businesses out there that need that protection and that support, and
Sure.
it's just that simple. I just don't understand the hesitation and the dragging of the feet to donate the
I don't know.
land,
I
but
think he should be more than happy
I agree with you. I agree with
to
you.
donate.
So,
Right.
we'll see how this shakes out, so, I don't have anything else. Jim, do you have anything else on the fire station or the equipment?
No, that's about it right now. I mean, with the equipment, just so you know, we don't have to pay till we pick it up. So we're looking at 4 years, so.
You said 4?
I'm sorry?
You said you don't have to pay for it until when?
It's probably gonna be, I'm gonna say 4, I'm hoping, I'm hoping 3 years and 6 months, but I'm gonna probably say it's be more like 4, the way the industry is right now.
But you had to
Are
pay
you
a
going
down
to
payment?
take,
There is no down payment, just a
At all.
contract that's signed,
Okay.
and they just gotta come up with the funding in 4 years for it.
It didn't even make a difference on that, because the only thing you were looking for was 100% upfront for a discount incentive, which was not enough, and we can't do 100%, as you know, under Indiana law. It was only recently changed, that we could put anything down up to 50%. But I will pursue the agreement, so we have it for the external auditors who may ask how we got away with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
are you going to take the advice of what he said about going to the bank and applying and then just let it ride till you need the money?
It would be,
That would be now.
Commissioner, I'm going to do
Pardon?
that.
it would be the town side that would
Yeah.
do that.
Oh, it would be the town.
Yeah.
I will be tasked with that on behalf of the town.
Right.
I'll take care of that.
You will take care of that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
And you're eager to.
Plus, I am
Can't
eager
wait
to.
I was a little lost.
And I will be, I may even buy lunch for the clerk treasurer if he goes with me.
Well, and that's an interesting question now that I see Eric in the audience, and I don't know. At one point, Eric, not the previous clerk treasurer, but the clerk treasurer before that, had taken all of our accounts and put them into one bank.
Yeah.
All of
Yep.
our accounts are still with that one bank?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that's not the bank. We're with Centier. He's talking about
Centier.
Centier.
Sent here. Okay.
US Bank is the one for the other.
All right, well,
You're
we've
right
got
about
a,
that too. That's the
we've
agency.
got a couple of contacts at Centier that we can obviously reach out to.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ladies,
Yes.
I don't have anything else unless you have any other questions for Angie or Michael or Joe or Bob or Tom or Jim.
No, I
Eric,
think.
Anybody
we-
else? John,
I'm
Chris?
fine. I'm fine.
You
Shauna?
good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you? You're good or you're great?
I'm great. Greater. I'm getting greater by the moment with you here.
All right, there is one last item, though, that Michael and I want to talk to you ladies about. And Mr. Griffin, I will let you discuss. We talked about some money out here, obviously.
Okay.
And one of the things that Michael wants us to do as an RDC is to do a capital plan.
Yes. As a
I
matter of
will let
fact, I
you
don't want
take-
it just as the RDC. The RDC has to be a participating entity of the town. It's something that I've put in my report to you, and it'll be in my report again to you tonight when you receive it, my staff report. We believe that it would be in the interest of Merrillville for us to have a Gantt chart so that we could manage the capital planning for the town. Eventually, I want you to have a strategic plan which goes beyond just the capital, but about your goals for how Merrillville should look 5 years out, 10 years out, 50 years out. It's a good time to do it because you're 52 years old. But the redevelopment commission is probably where we need to start because you've been doing most of the capital financing. There's been very little reliance on the Article 13 debt. I'm showing off for Mr. Pittman. The Article Constitutional, Article 13.
by you
No,
already.
stop
I
it.
can't even-
The Article 13 debt limitation in the Indiana Constitution, you're not utilizing that very much. You've been very imaginative in a good way and strategic in using this, but we do need to know that. We've even talked to staff in several meetings about, we'd like to get the rolling stock to be managed as well. We would like to find out what they need and what their rotation schedule is so that it doesn't seem as ad hoc, what we're doing, and we can maybe manage that financially a little bit more, I would say, systematically, which can sometimes render us getting cheaper capital, makes it more efficient. It's something that we need to do because we have a lot of capital asset requirements. It would help for the rotation of both police vehicles, public works vehicles, fire vehicles, although they're less frequent in turnover. They have a useful life of about 20 years according to our capital policy. But nevertheless, we still need to keep that in mind. So the redevelopment commission, I wanted to raise with you that our hope is that you would support that. You will represent a significant amount of that investment. The only utility we have is stormwater, and I don't know how many assets they are in our capital asset. Not very much.
We forgot to mention the corridor in Margie's ward with Whitcomb Street.
Right.
And we
Right.
saw that from Robinson a couple workshops ago, and that's gonna be a major investment out of probably out of the RDC, I'm guessing.
Well, we'll take a look. It could be. Anyway, it's considered a best practice, but it really would enhance the town's ability to manage those things so that we can think about what's the best place to place this requirement. My biggest concern is about managing the rotation of the fire trucks, the assets, the rolling assets of the street department and the police department. They're not inconsequential because of the size of this community. They're not inconsequential anywhere, but they're particularly not inconsequential here because you have a lot of demands, and we'd like to manage that better. We think if we can sit down with everybody and get that done. And also capital planning, there is a ancillary benefit to some extent. When you do plans like that and you're strategic, that kind of thing makes the people that do bond rating for you think you're more creditworthy. It can sometimes enhance your credit and your rating with Standard & Poor's, which is not a bad thing. I got to in my 30 years in my prior billet, I got to be pretty well known by the Indiana desk. I'm angry at them still because they didn't change our rating, which is what everybody else looks at, but they made some comments about our management practices, which annoyed me beyond words, but I'm the nerd that reads the stuff, so I shouldn't read it. I've been happy. I just should have looked at the cap, I should have just looked at the rating and been happy, but I can't help it. In any event, I do believe that that would be in our interest, because access to cheap capital is still a good idea for us. You have a lot of investment needs, and more importantly, the clerk treasurer and I agree on this. We've informally spoke about this. Our goal is to get that managed well so that we can make a pitch to appeal to the legislature at some point, because our operating resources are really, that's what I'm worried about the most over a longer period of time, on your behalf.
Michael, are you planning or thinking about doing all of this operating through Centur?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, Commissioner.
Like you were talking about Centur before?
Yeah, I do intend to seek out Centur for the arrangement that was suggested by Mr. Pittman, where we in effect get a draw loan with them in the amount of the value of the trucks so that we satisfy a technical requirement that we had resources on hand when we signed the contract. So we have to show that we have that. But during the entire time, it'll just be a pledge that's on paper, that's real. It'll be legally enforceable if we would need it. And if we drew on it, we would have to pay the interest that we negotiate. But we're not intending to do that. We just want to show that we made the commitment with reinforced and backed up by this. When the fire truck arrives, our intention is to finance it through the Redevelopment Authority by the issuance of a bond, and that will pay for it, and then we're just going to dismiss that loan at that time. But we need to meet that technical requirement of having an asset or an appropriation in place. In case there's a question, because we did have on the record the council authorized the purchase and the signature of the council president at your last public meeting, and we would need to have this to sort of support that. I thought it was a really good idea. I was at a loss to know what to do, so thank you.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got it? Okay.
I got it.
All right, now with that being said by Michael, that is all I have. Angie, do you have anything else for us?
No, I think that's everything.
That's good enough. Again, Bob and Tom, thank you for coming up. You're always there when we need you, so appreciate it. All right, do I need a motion to adjourn a workshop?
It
No?
says adjournment. Put adjournment on there.